After more than a decade of dogged determination and perseverance, stringent environmental review, collaboration with landowners and lawmakers, and some good old-fashioned blood, sweat, and tears, we are here at long last kicking off construction of the Alberta spread of the Keystone XL pipeline project. We're finally getting it done. As you can see, I'm standing here about 10 minutes from the town of Oyen in a TC Energy pipe yard. What you can't see in this camera is activity already occurring in this agricultural centre near the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. My understanding is that hotels and motels are at near capacity around here and will stay that way until at least April of next year. And the town's population of just over 1,000 is expected to double by mid-August when the construction workforce here is at its peak. Many of these skilled Alberta tradespeople and workers who are making Oyen their home have been out of work themselves for months. They'll now be collecting paychecks and using some of that to hard-earned pay in local restaurants, desperate for customers and revenue as they begin to reopen following the peak of the COVID pandemic. This, folks, is just one example of what will be happening in communities all along this nearly 2,000-kilometer-long route. From the Hardisty Terminal in east central Alberta to Steel City, Nebraska. From there, it will go to the U.S. Gulf Coast refineries to meet critical needs for the production and delivery of the goods and services that we North Americans use every single day. In fact, TC Energy expects the project will support 17,000 Canadian jobs and tens of thousands of jobs as well south of the border by the time it's completed in 2023. It will deliver at least 830,000 barrels per day of Western Canadian crude oil, produced under the world's most stringent environmental, human rights, and labor standards. When complete, this project will be a major part of our energy sector's continuing success and a pillar of Alberta and Canada's economic recovery post-COVID. Every credible forecast of future world energy consumption sees oil and gas continuing to dominate the supply mix for energy for the next several decades. And average private sector forecasts predict that global oil and gas prices will recover to a WTI benchmark of at least $60 a barrel within the next 12 to 18 months, with many projections for seeing significantly higher prices in 2023. In that environment, our energy sector is set to thrive as long as we can resolve the long-standing challenge of global market access through pipeline construction, through KXL and other projects. That's why this project is so critical and why Alberta's government stepped up to support this project with a $1.5 billion preferred equity stake to be followed next year with a $6 billion loan guarantee as backstop to support TC Energy's continued progress. Overall, the project will contribute approximately $2.5 billion to Canada's economy and will generate more than $7 million in property taxes in the first year of service alone. Over its lifetime, it's estimated the project will generate $30 billion in tax and royalty revenues for current and future generations of Albertans. Let me repeat that. $30 billion in taxes and royalties. If we want to be able to pay for our health care in the future, our infrastructure, our quality of life, we've got to get projects like this done. In the short term, it will pay more immediate dividends starting with right here around Oyen. The project will see about 2,000 construction workers hired in Alberta over the next 2 years, spurring thousands of additional jobs and increased economic activity in associated trades, retail and hospitality services along the construction route. And that route will be about 269 kilometers that will be constructed or commissioned here in the Alberta spread over the next 2-3 years. And this is part of the historic $10 billion Build Alberta program I announced as part of our recovery plan on Monday of this week, the largest ever Alberta provincial investment in infrastructure, larger than any other province, relatively speaking, that we estimate will create at least 50,000 jobs. Shovels are finally hitting the ground on this critical project, getting thousands of Albertans and Canadians back to work right now, while ensuring the future of Alberta and the future of Canada's energy industry. And let me say that today's good news follows on top of yesterday's fantastic news, an historic decision by the Supreme Court of Canada, the highest court in the land, rejecting the last legal effort to block the Trans Mountain expansion between Edmonton and Burnaby, British Columbia, a decision that upheld the unanimous call of the Federal Court of Appeal, which pointed out that 120 of the 129 affected First Nations along the TMX route either support the project actively or are not opposed to it, demonstrating that projects like this can, should, and will be engines to create prosperity, jobs, and a brighter future for First Nations and Indigenous people across Canada and indeed across North America.